Hello, everybody. It's Friday. That means it's time for another topic of the week. So, first things first, last week's topic on allies in the Age of Sigmar. Obviously, as we covered on the show this week, we had a lot more kind of details leak out a little bit into how exactly those allies are going to be structured. There was another release today about it. I suspect before we get the book, we'll basically know the whole story. But, in the feedback on it, there was a lot of sort of mixed feelings. I think there was more hopefulness than nobody I don't think was upset about it, though there are trepidations, right? I think that in general we all love the idea of there being like the ability to build your force more the way you want. It brings a lot of those smaller sort of non-factions back into the mix. Lets you include things like giants way easier if you have a particular soft spot in your heart for monsters and giants like I do. And it lets you sort of recombine certain forces that might have gotten lost out if we had only gotten new allegiance abilities. So in that regard, I think it's really good. And I think a lot of people were excited for the sort of narrative forces they could build, the conversion possibilities that are there. I think some of the trepidation around it was sensible and was mainly related to the idea that certain things become auto-includes almost across the board with anybody they can ally with. We mentioned the Huracanum last week, and I talked about it then, and it came up in the article today. So we'll see how that works out. But in the end, I'd still sometimes with design choices like that, you take the good, you take the bad. Sometimes there's not a way to stop all bad behavior. We as players have to sort of self-govern, and I'm okay with that. If it means that I get to have a lot more fun in 9 out of 10 of my games, but 1 out of 10 I have to put up with a bad apple. Okay, that's still net very positive for me. So, just because something has some potential for a downside to me doesn't mean we shouldn't do it from a game design perspective. So, we'll know more soon, and I look forward to building some new armies and doing some fun conversions where I want. I mean, I already, with my Chaos Force that's behind me, I already have most of my monsters converted over to be Zinchi. I have a couple Slaneshi monsters, so I'm ready to go. But let's turn to this week's topic. And Tom sort of inspired me on this one from this week's show. And this is going to be a little bit of a crossover topic. We're gonna go tangential a little bit to the world of wargaming here. On the show this week, Mitch's pick of the week was a very funny picture from me looking dour from our D&D marathon I had last weekend. And in that, it looks like I'm very sad as I'm staring at this sort of beautiful Dwarven Forge thing that Tom has with all these minis set up on it. And as I talked about on the show, I love miniatures, many armies, paint every day, but I hate miniatures in wargames. In wargames. I love miniatures in wargames. I hate miniatures in role-playing games. There we go. That's what I'm trying to say. Good night. I've always found that they detract more than they add. I recorded a podcast on it, on why I hate it. I'll link it down below, because I go on for like 30 minutes about why I particularly despise that particular thing, using miniatures and a grid and careful measuring in a role-playing game. It's not for me. A good old whiteboard and a dry erase marker and my imagination will always be better than any amount of Dwarven Forge or miniatures or anything, because once you put something on the table, it is that. That is the thing. And that will always be less than what's in my imagination. What's in my imagination will always be more grand and amazing and interesting and detailed than what's there. There's the long and short of it. So that's what I want to talk about this week. That's this week's topic. Miniatures in other types of games. Not just RPGs, though you can answer to that. Answer to whatever you've played. If you're also a crossover D&D player or an RPG person, do you like miniatures in your games? Now, I'll caveat that, by the way, to say I have no problem with painting a miniature for your character. The old, I have a miniature that represents my character, which is kind of some of the origin of a lot of the fantasy miniatures we have back in the early 80s. That was kind of their idea. Although they weren't necessarily always used on like a grid battle thing. That wasn't always the concept. Sometimes you just painted them to literally have in front of you. And for a long time, that was the case. I would make a little miniature for years. I made little miniatures for myself, and I would just set them on the table in front of me, and that was fine. Like, this is my character, and maybe you put them out there to represent like party order or something like that, just as a sort of shortcut for the GM. But so I have no problem with that. But how do you feel about miniatures and other things? Maybe it's RPGs. Do you like them? Do you find they add value, or are you like me and do you hate them? Board games. Miniature board games have become explosively popular. The ability to kickstart them, to have them produced en masse on the cheap in China, has caused just a boom, a golden age of board games like never before in miniature board games. And a bunch of people have been, I see these people buy tons of miniature board games that comes with just a pile of unpainted, questionable quality miniatures that they find suddenly they never want to paint. There are exceptions. Some are pretty good. The Dark Souls game recently comes to mind. I had a chance to really get up close and personal with the minis in that, and some of them impressed me. I thought they were nice, very imaginative sculpts. But that's another example. Like, miniatures are creeping out into these other things beyond just the war game, where they, to me, make sense and are a necessity. There are people who don't necessarily use their miniatures in wargaming. I've seen people play certain games with just kind of pieces of paper that represent blocks of troops. Kings of War, you can do this in very easily because there's no pulling of individual figures. It's just literally a block. And I find that to be repulsive. To me, wargaming, some big part of the heart of it is miniatures. It's tied up in it. It's an essential element. It cannot be distilled or separated from the concept. It is necessary and sufficient. But in other games, less so. So I thought that'd be an interesting topic. What do you think of miniatures in other types of games? Board games and RPGs come to mind, but if there are others you want to hit on, I would love to hear about it. As always, drop your thoughts down in the comments below, or if you make a response video, drop me that link, and I'll link it down in the description so you can always return to this video and see all of the people who've responded. Look forward to the discussion on this one. It should be interesting. Like I said, check out the podcast link. It's down there if you want to see my full thoughts. If you want to hear me ramble way too long, that's the place to look. And as always, thank you very much for watching. We'll see you next time.